Welcome back to the ITIL 4 Foundation e-learning training course by One World Training. In this next section, we're going to talk about 7 service management practices. For some of these, you will just need to learn the purpose of the practice. For some of them, you'll also need to learn the definition of an important term. And for 3 of them, you will need to learn quite a bit of detail about the practice. The 7 service management practices that we're going to talk about in this section of the training are change enablement, incident management, IT asset management, monitoring and event management, problem management, release management, and service configuration management. The 3 practices that you need to learn in detail are change enablement, incident management, and problem management. Now, change enablement. Earlier versions of ITIL had a process called change management, and that's a term that you'll often find used across the industry. Change management was all about how we manage changes to technical components. With ITIL 4, we introduced a completely new practice called organizational change management, which is all about managing changes to organizations and people and managing the people side of change. It wouldn't make sense to have 2 different practices, both called change management. So this one that we're going to talk about now underwent a name change, and it's now called change enablement. Now, that name change wasn't just because we didn't want to conflict with organizational change management. There's been a lot of improvement here, a much better focus on making change happen and making change happen effectively. And the name change reflects that change enablement is about enabling changes. Change management had a very negative perception in earlier versions of ITIL. It was seen as an overly bureaucratic and old-fashioned approach to managing changes. The emphasis has been changed now from management of change to enablement of change. And this is one of the practices that you need to know in some detail, not just the purpose, but quite a lot of other information about the practice. You can see why we call it change enablement as soon as you read the purpose. The purpose is to maximize the number of successful IT changes by ensuring that risks have been properly assessed, authorizing changes to proceed, and managing a change schedule. Historically, change management had a poor reputation as being a blocker, as slowing down change. And there's been a lot of effort in the way that change enablement has been written in ITIL 4 to emphasize that we need to maximize the number of successful IT changes. We need to enable changes to happen, not slow them down. There's a couple of definitions on this slide. A change is the addition, modification, or removal of anything that could have a direct or indirect effect on services. So almost anything. It could be documentation, people, suppliers, contracts, technology, anything. And somebody who authorizes a change is known as a change authority. And this is an important term to be familiar with. I will talk in a couple of minutes about change authorities and what sort of person or group might be a change authority. But probably the most important thing on this slide is the little balance on the left. We need to balance the beneficial effects of changes with protecting the organization from the adverse effects of changes. I've run change workshops with groups of people a number of times, and one of the exercises I often do with them is I divide them into groups of 2 or 3 people, and I give them a pen and a piece of paper, and I say, please write down for me in your little group, what is the purpose of change management in your organization and what your goals are for change management. I always know what's going to happen because the same thing happens every time I do this, and I've done it with lots of different groups of IT people. I collect in all the pieces of paper and I write down all of their purposes and goals for change management on a big whiteboard or a screen where everybody can see it. And I say to them, I have got a perfect change management process that will meet all of your needs. Freeze all change forever. because the people involved in change management in IT think that their purpose is to reduce the risk of change, to make sure that change doesn't happen if it might break something, and they never think that their role is to maximize the number of successful IT changes, to enable change to happen. And as soon as you have a group of people who only see themselves on one side of this balance, we have a problem. And that's why change enablement has a very bad reputation in IT organizations, because the people doing the work often don't understand that their main role is to support the flow of changes into production, not to block changes. But they do need to do that in the context of protecting from the adverse effect of those changes. Thank you for attending this ITIL 4 Foundation e-learning course, which is a preparation course for candidates taking the official AXELOS ITIL 4 Foundation exam, which is conducted by PeopleCert. One World Training is an authorized training provider for all modules of ITIL 4, Prince2, Prince2 Agile, PeopleCert Scrum Master, PeopleCert DevOps, and Service Desk Institute courses, including Service Desk Analyst V8 and Service Desk Manager V8, and many other courses. All courses offered by One World Training are available via e-learning and live online. For enrollment queries, you can contact info, I-N-F-O, at oneworldtraining.com, as you see on this slide. If you've got any questions about anything you have learned on this training course, then you can email One World Training using that same email address as shown on this slide. I hope that you have enjoyed this course, and I'd like to wish you good luck in your ITIL 4 Foundation exam. Thank you and goodbye.